Good afternoon. This is Tanner Kim doing special select board meeting on Friday, September 9th, 2022. We are streaming on YouTube and we have a webinar connection also. The webinar connection can be found on the website under select board meetings and on the agenda. Please use that link, and as always, if you want to join as from an attendee to a panelist to make a comment, please raise your hand. That's the preferred method. Chat function will not be monitored. Q&A, to the extent we can, we will, but we much prefer the raising the hand. So with that, I'd like to start our agenda, and we have a couple items. I'm going to, with the board's permission, I'm going to just do a swap here between number 1 and number 2, and basically start with the board's consideration of use of the Village Green for Saturday, September 17th by the American Legion Post 30 to commemorate National POW MIA Day. Does the board have any comments, questions, or anybody want to speak to this or motion?
Just at what time? Is it a whole day?
Jeff, could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, first, thanks for taking that into consideration. It's only about an hour and a half total. We'll start at noon.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and if it's raining, we won't hold it there. We'll hold it up at the post anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
That was my only question. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks
Good
for
to see you.
organizing
Yeah,
that,
thank you.
Jeff. I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All's in favor? 4, and I don't see Tom on board yet.
Tom is here.
Is he?
He's got his hand up.
Okay. What's your oh, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
I
Jeff.
could, let me try to,
Go ahead, promote him.
I've done all of that. He has all the power, but I could ask him to.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. we
I
can-
just want to let you know I raised my hand. I've already, all those in favor?
Oh, good.
Tom, on just as a formality, on when you're on remote, I would ask for a verbal yes or no. Did you hear me, Tom? Hello.
Go off mute.
Can you hear me?
Me to start my video?
No, you don't have to, Tom. I just wanted, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. When we were on remote during a vote, just say a verbal yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tom. No, you don't have to do the video, but thanks for calling in from your distant location. We appreciate it. So with that, we will go back to item number 1, which is basically the purpose of the meeting is a public hearing for a 180-day extension to the moratorium ordinance to prohibit the installation, construction, or modification of piers, docks, floats, or ramps serving residential properties within the bounds of the coastal and outer harbors. And just as a preface, the purpose of a public hearing is for us to hear comments from the public, pro, con, or just comment on the item. I respectfully ask you, keep your, I will obviously identify anyone in the public who wants to raise their hand to speak. Keep your comments to about 3 minutes, please. Direct any questions through the chair, and please obviously be courteous. At the conclusion, after everybody in the public has spoken, I will close the public portion of this hearing and revert to decision by the select board. We will not entertain any other public input unless the select board member has a question of somebody who has previously spoken. So with that, do I have anybody in the public who would like to make a comment, pro, con, or just speak to the matter? Yes, please.
Good afternoon. Will Gartley, and I'm here representing Betsy Sherman, who has
Okay.
a place on Baby Street. And
Okay.
I think, if I understand correctly, she sent a letter to the Select Board
Yes.
regarding her pier. And she asked me to request that the moratorium, if extended, not include the coastal harbor. The coastal harbor allows piers to be 10 feet above mean high water compared to the 6 feet in the outer harbor, so that's a considerable difference. And if not the entire coastal harbor, maybe an option could be for projects that already have state, federal, and planning board approval. Hers is done. Many of the items in the moratorium are much less significant for her location. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Please, Paul.
I'm Paul Gibbons, I'm an attorney in Camden. I represent CTCA Corporation, Limited Liability Company, owned by Cheryl Rennett, who owns a piece of property on Erie Avenue that's on the coast of Maine, on the shore of Camden. And they seek to build a private pier on their property. They've owned that property for quite some time. The moratorium statute places some restrictions on your ability to extend the moratorium. And it says that you can extend it if reasonable progress is being made to alleviate the problem giving rise to the need for the moratorium. And I don't believe that you've met that requirement. And I would advise you to consult with your attorney because I think that prevents you from extending it. I would also say, in addition, as a citizen of the town of Camden, I find that we're very fortunate to have a Board of Selectmen of your quality. And you always exercise the highest professional efforts, I think, on behalf of the town. People don't tell you that enough, but that's important, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very
Paul.
much. Very nice. Other comments from the public? Anybody from the public? Mr. Gold?
Can I ask a question before I make a comment?
Ask a question. Ask anything you want. No, I don't know if we can answer it.
What is the intent of what's supposed to happen during the 180 days?
Basically, it's a continuation of the analysis that we've directed through the Harbor Committee and others to provide certain information to the board from which a decision will be made on.
To write an ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I certainly favor this. I unfortunately think it's about 22 years too late. This would have been a great idea, which some of us were promoting 20 years ago before the Uber wealth arrived, to build a dock on every property. So yes, I'm in favor of the extension.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Steve?
Other comments from the public, anyone? So with that, I don't see any more hands, then I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this public hearing and revert to deliberation by the Select Board. Do Select Board members have any questions, comments, or do you want me to just pick on you individually? No?
I don't know how much we need
Well,
to discuss this. I certainly feel
Well,
good
I-
about continuing it. I think we're on the
I think
path. We
I
need to
remind-
continue it, and we need to continue for all of it.
According to, well, input I've had in the past, but also our attorney, the extension of, just so the public knows, the extension of the moratorium, first of all, must be 180 days. We can't do it for 90, unfortunately, by statute. In addition, our advice has been, I definitely have asked a question about whether we can carve out pieces of it and not carry that forward, and the answer I got was no. And most importantly, that, to Paul's point, that substantial progress has been made by the charge that the Select Board gave in a previous meeting to, well, not police, which is Harbor Committee and other, and Gartley and Dorsey and others, and I think that's one of the things we want to make sure we have. That's very important, because if to Paul's point, if we haven't, if we've been dragging feet, to make an exaggeration, then we would have the problem that Paul mentioned. So with that, I think it would be a good idea, unless the board disagrees, and for the public to, because we've seen in the packet what's been written, but the public may not. Josh, would you mind giving us a little treatise on where the deliberations, the charge you've had, the deliberations you've been involved in, and why, and not why you're not finished, but the process of completion needs to extend. I'd appreciate it.
Hello, Joshua Moore, Chairman of the Harbor Committee, everybody knows. So yes, we have met twice on this topic since you charged us with this in late July. We had 2 meetings in August on it. In addition, we had our regular meeting, and then we had a special meeting just on this one. We are examining sort of 4 aspects of well, first, we have identified the threat, the scope of the threat, as you had asked us to do. So we've done that for the outer harbor currently, and we're working on it for the coastal harbor to quantify it for that. In the outer harbor, we have determined that there's the potential for 4 additional residential piers, 3 on the west side of the harbor, of the outer harbor, and 1 near Lake Beach, in the shallows over by Lake Beach. In the coastal harbor, it's a little bit more difficult to quantify, honestly, because it is basically open ocean, sort of out there, so it becomes a little bit, like I said, a little harder. Also, some of the separation rules are a little different out there as well, because in the outer harbor, we have the 300-foot separation rule where the piers can only be that far apart. So I think we've identified the scope of the threat at this point, and then we're breaking it down into 4 different criteria. See if I can remember them exactly. One is density, the density of them. One is public access. One is obviously climate change, sort of the biggest one. And then the 4th one is habitat. Thank you, Jeremy. Right, habitat. So those are kind of the 4 aspects that we're looking at with each location, coastal harbor and outer harbor. We've kind of got a matrix or whatever you want to call it going. We made a lot of progress in the last meeting. We've had some very lively discussions, and I hope everybody takes a cup of coffee and watches some of our videos. So we're continuing with that project. I can't give you a deadline on when we expect to have it wrapped up, but we've made enough progress that I feel good about where we're going and the sort of structure that we've put into it. At this point, we have not formally enlisted any outside resources, though Will Gartley has attended some of our meetings, and due to his experience in this field, we have asked him quite a few questions, just because he happened to be crazy enough to come to our meeting. I can't say that we're not going to ask for more outside assistance and resources, because we're not that far through the analysis. I don't think we're there yet to say we are going to call on X, Y, Z, whether it's a local entity or national. We have obtained copies of the most recent pier approvals for the outer harbor, and then also for the coastal harbor, that have come through the Army Corps, so that we could sort of see what they ask. And those are extremely long documents. So we have obtained them. And then lastly, I met last week before last, with the town attorney to talk a little bit about some of the public access specifically issues that were raised. It's kind of where we're at. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, just 1 second, Allison. Sophie, you go as liaison to the Harbor Committee. Do you want to add anything to what Josh stated? Okay, no. Allison, please. Just in case.
Thank you.
Allison, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know also that at our Conservation Commission meeting, did make them aware that you would likely be reaching out to them at some point. This is to make you guys aware too, so they're looking over the ordinance and the moratorium, and we selected Rebecca Jacobs, who's the chair of the Conservation Commission and also works with the Knox-Lincoln Soil and Water Conservation District, so she's going to be kind of like the person to get in touch with for
Awesome.
you, and the person that is, the Conservation Commission kind of wanted somebody from that commission to be paying attention to what the Harbor Committee was doing. So when you guys get a chance to hook up, that would be
Awesome.
great. Thanks
Fabulous.
sounds like you guys are off. I like the way you described everything, and sounds like you're off to a
Yeah,
great start.
it's been good. It's been, like I said, it's been lively discussions, which is what I want. I don't want a quiet room.
Oh, yeah, no, that's good. The Harbor Committee's supposed to be lively, right?
It's lively.
The Harbor Committee does a great job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Stephanie?
If another 180 days is voted in all likelihood, will you have the recommendations that were asked for at the end of that time?
Yes. I mean, I should say, you know, we're moving forward with this, whether the 180 day, another 180 days comes or not. We've started, we're not going to stop. So I feel pretty confident that we will have it done well in advance of 180 days, our recommendations. Yeah, absolutely.
That helps. Any other questions, board? I know Tom hasn't raised his hand, so I'll presume not. Do I have a motion on this matter?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the extension for 180 days of the peer moratorium.
Second.
Second, thank you. Discussion-wise, Jeremy, just to be clear for the public again, the current moratorium expires September 15th, is that correct?
It actually expires tomorrow.
Oh,
The 10th, you got to count 180 days. It's actually tomorrow.
okay. So
Repeat that way on the, so people
Sure,
can hear.
the
please.
current moratorium expires tomorrow, September 10th.
10.
You count 180 days from the 15th, that's how you get
it'll
to
be
it.
100 physical counted days from
Yes.
tomorrow will be the
Yep.
next, I don't want to guess what that date is.
Correct.
But, okay, I just want to be clear.
Yep, and I think it's important to, when you make your motion, that you identify or include as, you know, materials that you have reviewed and you understand that, or you find that the Harbor Committee's making reasonable progress as part of your motion, and that you find that the threat continues because nothing has been done to address the
Nothing's been
threat.
completed.
Correct. I just think that's important to note for the record and
Good-
your vote.
Good point, Jeremy, thank you.
And Bob, Bill Kelly recommended that you adopt the memo that Jeremy Martin provided that had all the information that Josh relayed to the board
Okay.
as your findings of fact.
So the motion should be qualified to reflect both of those matters, to accept the memo from our attorney, which included Josh's information to date, and the what?
Memo from me.
Yeah, the memo from Jeremy.
You got that, Sophie?
Yep. So I am I'm amending my motion, and I move that the select board approves the extension for 180 days starting on September 10th of the current moratorium to examine the peer situation. We're taking into consideration the fact that the threat has not disappeared. We are approving the memo submitted by Jeremy Martin as the findings so far, and we are also approving the memo that was shared by the Harbor Committee on the progress made to this date.
And that work has not been completed yet.
And the work has to continue and has not been completed yet.
They're, yeah, we find that they're making reasonable progress. Do we need to get
Yeah.
that?
We find that they're making reasonable progress and that it warrants the extension for 180 days.
That's important.
That's my whole motion.
Second.
Repeat after me.
Long motions
necessary.
made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Tom, can you hear with a verbal yes or no?
Aye, I'm in favor. Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for taking the time out. I really appreciate it. No, enjoy your trip.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
With that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Stephanie wants to make the motion to adjourn.
I did it already. I beat her.
Have a second. Motion made in second. All those in favor, 5-0.